Have you ever had a client open up to you within the first 5 minutes of your hypnosis session? And if you have, how did that feel? And what if you can replicate that again and again and again and again during your sessions where it becomes the norm for you for clients to actually divulge their deepest, darkest beliefs and secrets within the first 5 to 10 minutes of your first session? And of course, it gets much faster after that, right? Once the trust and rapport gets more established. However, if your first session is when you actually have your clients open up, how do you think that will change your practice? How do you think your client results are going to be? What is your reputation going to be if you were that hypnotist that actually helps clients to crack open the minute they come into your session? Today, that's what we're talking about, and helping you to start that process of really having that feeling of, wow, I truly made a difference for my clients today. I truly made a difference in someone's life, even if it was just a simple conversation. And so there are actually three amazing questions that were asked to help you and the people who ask these questions about helping a client open up. And a lot of these questions have to do with resistance, because as we know, if a client is slightly resistant, uh, for many reasons that are definitely valid for them, then that can stop them from opening up, right? If their defense systems are up, then it's not going to help us help them. And a lot of this actually has to do with what we are doing versus what the clients are doing. So let's set the scene first for contextual purposes. The how I'm going to answer the question is assuming that this client that you're working with is a paying client. That is very, very important. A paying client who has paid to come and work with you and resolve a particular presenting problem. And now you're going into, say, your first session and you want them to really open up faster. And so the very first question is, how do you help clients to feel safe opening up? This is a big thing in hypnosis. A lot of the times we were taught to build rapport and have the rapport building techniques. We want to make sure that they're calm and relaxed within our first session, or even in our consult calls. We make sure that we talk to them about what we're going to expect in the session and what hypnosis is going to feel like, which I totally, totally get. However, that's not really what is going to help client open up. Maybe a little bit to ease some of that anxiety, but that is not the thing that will help clients open up to you. So, for example, you have your own routine in your consult call and you've built rapport. That rapport is built in that first call. And so when you go into your first session, there is going to be some level of trust within the client because first, they paid you. Second, they showed up in the session, right? So you want to really believe that. You want to believe that at some level, your clients do trust you. This is something that is not talked about as much, but I know I used to struggle with as well. It's not really that my clients didn't trust me. I didn't trust myself. So you want to be really mindful as to what is going on in your mind before each session and how you're influencing the session because of whatever it is that you're believing or perceiving to be with the session. An example is, say, for example, someone came to you and it was maybe not your niche, maybe you work with people with emotional eating, and then someone reached out to you and was like, "Can you help me stop smoking?" Right? Something really different. And if you have doubts in your mind regarding your ability to help a symptom of smoking, then that can affect the session, right? So you first want to really look at yourself with regards to that. And how does this help client feel safe? Well, if you ain't safe in your body, how the hell is the client going to be safe with you? Right? So that is the very, very, very first thing. And this is why I bring this up right now. You help a client to open up if you yourself, you are in a regulated state. And you may have your routine already with regards to how you start your sessions, which is great. But if you've got, say, a lot of shit going on in your life, there's a lot of stressors in your life, just be mindful of how you are dealing with that, right? Because that will affect the session. And so fill your cup up first really is the point of the first answer to that question. And second, you help a client feel safe opening up by truly listening to them. Now I talk to a lot of hypnotherapists and they're like, yeah, I do listen. But when they get into the conversational hypnosis world, they see that they're not really listening as well because they're in their head once we actually get through how to free flow the sessions. So when you get into your sessions, be honest with yourself. There's no right or wrong answer here. This is all about growth, right? Be honest with yourself. And when you're in your sessions, you're sitting like this, like me. I'm in Zoom, I'm with a client. How are you actually listening? Like if a client were to talk to you about something, right? You ask them a question, they answer. Where does your mind go? And where do you go in general? Is it with the next question? Is it you're like, oh my God, I feel so sorry for this client. I really want to help them now. So I'm going to think of the best question, the best words, the best metaphors, the best language pattern to help this client. And you're not really listening if you are thinking those things, right? What question do I ask next? What question do I ask next? These are not very helpful for your client. That is a sign that you are not listening. And it's human to do this, right? I still do this occasionally, but I'm just much faster at catching myself, and especially at the beginning, because I was trained in traditional methods where I read off of things and there are cue cards everywhere, and there it was technique after technique after technique. So I actually wasn't listening to my client. I wasn't actually fully paying attention to them. That's why I brought this up, because just imagine I have these cue cards, right? Like, okay, these are post-its, but I have these cue cards everywhere because I want to remember what technique to use for whatever, right? It's like I have these 10 techniques that I learned and I want to free flow my session. So I want to make sure they're there so that if a client says something, I can pick the technique. Yep, that was me. And when you're looking around, right? Like, and again, talking about me here, if I had so much cue cards everywhere that like we look at me and where my eyes are. My eyes are all over the place. I am not really listening to my client because in my head I'm like, where, like, which one do I use? Which one do I use? I'm not really paying attention to the client in front of me. And that is not a good thing, as you know, right? And so this is when our clients will resist. This is when the clients will look and say, I don't know if she's listening. I don't know if this person is listening to me. It looks like she's looking around, and this happens, they assess us unconsciously. They might not even realize that they're doing it. To us, it might seem like, you're just doing our thing. But to the client, this can bring up resistance. And so if you want to help your clients feel safe at the most simplest of ways, listen to them intently and look at the ways and be honest with yourself as to where you're not listening, where you're not being present with your client. Because when we do that time and time again, that can increase the resistance. And that is why our clients won't open up, especially if we're using techniques that do not fit how their brain works. If you tell someone with hypophantasia or aphantasia, where they cannot visualize, to visualize and imagine balloons, being attached to them, all 100,000 balloons, and them being brought up, and imagine themselves being lightly brought up into the sky, into the heavens, and this is where they're going to find their answer, and they cannot visualize that. Do you think they're going to open up with you? Because I can I can tell you now, as someone who also cannot visualize, that shit irks me. I hate that shit. So I will not open up to someone who will ask me to imagine things, because that's not how my brain works. And your clients are the same way. They might be more polite about it and they will probably try, but it's not going to be of high quality that's going to come out of the session, because it just doesn't fit, right? Square peg, round hole kind of thing. And so listen to your client and look at your own shit to make sure you're not bringing it into the session. That's how you can help clients to feel safe, open up. And second question, I feel like I'm barely scratching the surface with some clients. Any tips? Yes, when we're doing this, when we are barely scratching the surface, it means that we are only talking about the symptom problem. And this is a lot more difficult to see, especially if you're trained traditionally, because how are you traditionally trained? You are trained to look at the symptom instead of the problem, even though they say that you're actually getting to the root of the problem. But if someone comes to you with emotional eating, for example, and right now you are giving them affirmations or asking them questions about the sugar and what they're eating, and maybe if they need to exercise more, and maybe they should stop buying the sugar, maybe they could change their ways of thinking, maybe they're going to say, I'm choosing fruit instead, and really telling them what to do, then that is not scratching the surface, because the eating part and what they're eating is the symptom. So if you are finding that you're talking about the presenting problem, then that is why, right? That's why you're barely scratching the surface, because the questions you're asking are only from the symptom. And when you can have a conversation with your client that is extremely bizarre and you're like, I don't know how the hell we got here. This is so strange. That is when you start to scratch the surface. And how do you do that, right? How do you get away from the symptom problem? This is one tip that I give all my students, which is what you want to do is ask your clients about the driver, right? There is something driving this client to want to emotionally eat. Whatever emotions they're feeling, what is happening, whatever emotions they're feeling, they are feeling it for some reason. And when we just talk about the symptom, it's all external, right? Like, I'm eating this. I know that I'm wanting to eat more fruit, whatever it is that they're asking, it's all like external. And so what I tell my students is that really the fastest way you can get to the deep root cause faster is ask them internal questions. Like, how does it a typical one is, how does it feel? But some clients intellectualize their feelings. So what you then this is a skill set. What you want to be really good at is asking yourself, how can I get my clients to look internally? Like, what are the questions that I can ask so that the client is more looking at their themselves, right? Not the things that they're doing, but themselves. So I'll give you an example of an external question versus an internal question, which is an external question. And a surface level question is something like, okay, so when you start eating the sugar, how are you going to stop grabbing for that cake or that biscuit or the whole thing? That question is not the best question. That is a fix it question, first off, and it's external, right? It's asking them to fix the behavior instead of look at what is driving the behavior. Big difference. So an internal question is, so when you are grabbing the biscuits or the cake, what actually happens? right? It's that question is very it's open-ended, but at the same time, it is starting to ask the client to explain what is happening between whatever is going on in their bodies and that behavior so that they can examine it, so they can actually understand it, which then allows them to fix it themselves, right? Because the first question, what you're probably going to receive as an answer is like, well, I've tried not buying it, but when my partner comes with it, it's hard for me to do to say no, or if I go into a party and it's there, like I just can't stop picking at the cake or the biscuits or whatever. That is the answer that they're going to give you, which is surface level shit, right? But the other question, once you see that what is actually happening, they can pause and actually start to notice what is happening in their thoughts, in their bodies, whatever it is that they're feeling. And so this is how you get to the deeper layers, by asking them internal questions. So I hope that made sense. And we'll move on to the last one. How do I become more efficient inside sessions? The fastest way is to learn conversational hypnosis, because we don't do any of that technique shit, and we don't do any induction, deepener, suggestibility, any of that shit. You just need learn how to ask your clients questions that get to the deepest unconscious response. And so the answer to that question is you become more efficient in your sessions once you learn how to ask questions that elicit the fastest unconscious response, which I already gave you an example of by asking more internal questions. And so when you become efficient, how you become efficient at first is to really practice that muscle of asking your clients the question. And you don't even need to have 100 clients right now. You can do this today by first practicing on you. Practice asking yourself questions, because that is going to really help you out with asking other people questions. So if you find that you have a limiting belief somewhere, go ask yourself questions. What questions would you ask yourself? And are you asking yourself external questions or internal questions? This is a fantastic way to practice the skill of being efficient by asking questions. So I'll give you an example. For say you are about to go into a session and you feel nervous, right? You feel nervous before your client session, and there's some doubt that pops up, some imposter syndrome like feelings, right? And so instead of, you know, going there and being truly caught up and wound up with the stories that you're telling yourself, pause and ask yourself questions, right? What makes me nervous right now? Why am I nervous? Where is this doubt coming from? What is happening? Uh, what am I trying to do here? What am I trying to get at? What is my unconscious mind communicating through the nervousness? Those types of questions, those are the type of questions that you want to ask yourself. And of course, this is a skill set. So you can start today to build this up over time, because it's only going to get better. And once you actually start asking yourself questions and you are finding your own breakthroughs, guess what? That's gonna transfer over into your client sessions effortlessly. That just makes sense, right? So that's how I would start. And so hopefully so far these tips and this mini training has helped you to rethink about how you are going to be more efficient and help your clients faster, because it really is within the quality of our questions that we can help our clients open up faster, as well as being really mindful of how we are negatively affecting the session, and help and making our clients resist because we are too in our heads. It is not about us, it is about the client. So, knowing this, practicing this, working on our shit is really going to help. And you can keep asking yourself questions. That's how you're going to work on your shit, right? And then that'll transfer over to your clients, which is win win win. Five kills, five birds with one stone there. And so, if you have any questions at all, let me know. There is going to be an event starting next week, so the last week of March, every week regarding free flowing sessions and going beyond scripts and techniques. It is a 1 hour experience event where it's an interactive spot for hypnotherapists who do want to go beyond the techniques, who do want to help clients faster, who want to help clients open up faster to get faster results. This is when we're going to practice the skill set of the hypnotic interview, which is what I've been talking about today already. And so, if you want to really nail your ability to help clients get to the root faster, then this will be for you. And this is going to, you're not going to learn hypnosis from me. You're going to learn how to have therapeutic breakthroughs faster. And so if you're interested in this event, just comment below free flowing sessions or message me free flowing sessions. It starts Tuesday, Aussie time, so Monday for the rest of the world. And it's going to be a weekly thing. It is for free and it's 1 hour. Replays are available for 30 days after the event and you get to learn and have fun at the same time while letting go of the techniques and scripts that put clients in a box. So I'm going to see you around. Let's have a massive impact together, one conversation at a time.